Good day once again, and you're welcome to the class of essay once again. Today, we're going to be talking on descriptive essay. The last period, we talked about narrative essay. We went extensively on narrative essay, what you're expected to do, the tips on narrative essay, and everything. Today, we're discussing descriptive essay. Descriptive essay is not like narrative essay per se. In it, you might be narrating some things, you might be saying some things as a narration, but it's not actually like narrative essay. So let's just go into it. Now, I have here that a descriptive essay is one where the writer tells what something is or paints a vivid picture of what is known to him or her to the readers, so that they can visualize what is being described with their inner eye. Okay, so in essence, what I'm saying is that any descriptive essay would be stuffed with details, well-chosen language, and correctly punctuated sentences. I'm not saying that in other type of essay you don't punctuate well. Of course, you know what the penalty, we've learned that the penalties are when you don't have good punctuation. But with this, we're saying that it determines, it demands that somebody has a very good skill of your punctuation and you use them well. Descriptive essay is not a child's play. I'm not threatening you. I'm not saying you can't do it. Of course, if you learn it well, you will do it really well. Yeah, let's go at this pace. There are two major kinds of description. There are two major ways you can describe. We have the objective description. Objective description is you're describing something that has a laid down rule. You are not adding anything. You can't add your personal feelings. You can't say, oh, now when if this is like this, if it is not like that, then I feel. No, you are not allowed to do that. And this is the one we use in scientific experiments. When you write for scientific experiments, that's what you use, especially when you have to describe. If it says this, describe that, I don't know now. Which one do I say now? Acid or base turns, clinical litmus paper, whatever, you can't be saying that now I feel that it turned it red because it is. No, it's not your feeling. It is science, that is what it is. Or when you diagnose, when you're describing your diagnosis, like the doctors, when you describe your diagnosis, you're saying it the way it is, the way you have seen it. You're not saying, I feel that. I don't think that would be perfect. So you're not describing based on impression. You're not describing based on your personal attitude. No. The one we're concerned with is the impressionistic description. That's what we're concerned with when we write descriptive essay. Here, your feelings, your attitude, in fact, sometimes your personality, your feelings, your thoughts towards what you're describing would come into play. You will portray that. There is no doubt about that. Because if you must describe well, you must have all of those. If you don't have them, then you're not describing. What can we describe? We can describe a person. You want to describe somebody. You can describe somebody. Yes. And of course, there are a lot of things you'll be doing when you're describing somebody. We might talk about that later as we move on. You describe a location. You can describe a location or place. You love your hometown so much and you want it known. You want to describe it. And you want to describe an event. So those are the major things you can describe. Now, let me tell us one major way that we have one major way we have a very big disparity between narration and description is in this area. When you are narrating, you can just make up anything and narrate it. Yeah, You can make up anything and narrate it. That's why narration is very easy. Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't master the skills. No. But I am saying that it's different from description. When you're describing, you must know that thing. It must be something well known to you. If it is a place you don't know, it will be very difficult to describe that place. Very, very difficult. I'm not saying your sense of creativity would not come in here, but you must have a glimpse of the place you are describing. Not just even a glimpse. You must have a true knowledge of that place, because you don't know who will be reading. You don't know who will be reading. No matter how well, if you describe my village, for instance, I know my village like my right and left palm. I can tell you every nook and cranny of my village. Now, if you're describing my village, I'm writing, no matter how well you have written about it, it has this, it has that, on the way to, if you describe that, there's a tendency that I will not give you that kind of mark you deserve, because I know all those things you're talking about, they are not in my village. Sometimes some people you will put some things that are lies about a particular examiners will just, sometimes they circle it and they just put no way. Where did you find this from? And there is no way it will not influence your mark. So that is why description is different. If you want to describe a person, okay, imagine if you're given the question says you should describe somebody, and the person's name is, the person is given, the person. The person has an identity with whoever is giving you that question. Now go ahead and describe that person, and it is not in line with what exactly the person looks like or who exactly the person is. Then it becomes a problem. And you don't really know this person. So you're not in the right position to describe this person. So that is one major way description is different from narration. If it comes to an event, you might say, yes, isn't it just, let me just narrate it, let me just say it. For instance, if a question, like something that happened recently in Ibadan here, if you are asked to describe the event that happened in Ibadan, Bodija Market, sometimes last week, if you were not there, you only saw, maybe you just watch on the, on your, what do I call it now, somebody sent it to your WhatsApp, somebody sent it to, and you watch it. Yes, you could have watched it, but there are some things you would be expected to add. There are some color, some light you will be expected to add to it. If you don't know that, you were not at the scene, you would not be able to add those. That is why sometimes it is really, when it says describe, it's really, really difficult to describe well if you don't know. Let me give a very good instance. Now you have moved, your friend has moved to a new place. The house, they have relocated. Now you're asked to describe the place to somebody who will be coming for the first time to that place, to your friend's house, a very good friend, and you have never been there. So how do you do that? That is description. If you have not been there, you don't know how. Sometimes when you are told, if it's a very complex place, like there will be this on the way, there will be this on the way, it might be very difficult for you. Except you've been there, you know those things on the way, those things then you would even be able to draw a map for whoever will be coming. So that is one major way descriptive essay is different from narrative essay and maybe some other essay. All right, let's see the elements of a description, and we describe what are those things we take into cognizance. The language. I was telling us that you describe things, events, places, people that are known to you, not somebody you don't know, okay, or not events that you're not familiar with. You won't be describing well. So we're saying you use suitably rich adjective and adjectival phrases and clauses to qualify your nouns when you describe. Now, So description is such that when you do it, you're doing it to somebody and that person would not need to ask further questions to be able to get whatever it is you're describing. Take for instance, if you're describing your mother, I don't need to see your mom to know who you're describing. And when I see that person you have described, I should be able to say, yes, this is what, this is the person this lady or this boy described. That is the way to describe. If I'm describing a location, a place to you, when you get there, nobody needs to tell you any longer that, oh, this is the place this person described to you. Or if it is how to locate a place, you should describe it in such a way that whoever is going there would not need to ask further questions. What we're saying is you must be able to describe so that whoever you're describing the place for or the event for or the person would not need to ask further questions when they see what you have described. They must be able to get it. That is the reason you're describing to them. So if you're not doing it well, you haven't described well. You don't use your language well. You just write like you write nouns. You don't describe it. You don't give us adjective that would describe that noun, that would qualify the noun, that would let the person know, okay, this was exactly how. Or you don't use your adverbs to support your verbs. You just use verb. It did this. You didn't tell us how. Remember, from the description we said the person is telling. If you're describing to tell somebody you're painting a vivid picture of what that person, that thing is. So if you don't use details, if you don't add adverbs to your verbs, you don't have adjectival phrases or clauses to your adverb, the expression will be so weak. It will tend to be maybe more of just ordinary speech than description. So that is that about your language. So take care of that. Giving you examples, like you're saying, you're describing somebody who is probably looking so haggard. Not just that he looks so haggard. I'm like, how haggard? I don't know. Now you're saying, oh, a man pulled up a skeletal body, wrapped in dirty, smelly. These are all expressions to describe that man. To tell whoever is reading it or whoever, you don't need to show that person the man. The man can visualize it. When you see, oh, somebody pulled up looking skeletal, so that means the person is very lean, has lost all the weight. The person wrapped in dirty hole. That shows how dirty smelly. You just get it at that description. You get it at the description. You don't need to ask further questions. So that is it. And the same with verbs. Let's see the choice of words. This is where we have always spoken about, and we are going to still speak about it. We're talking about what do you use to describe. It is your words, your vocabulary. And if you're describing anything, if you don't have the vocabulary rightly meant for that description, then you won't do it well. You won't describe well at all. You will not. So you must possess your vocabulary. Some of you're going to be great writers. You're going to write better than anyone else. You're going to make names. So some of us will become great writers. Will become great people, renowned people very, very soon. If you don't read wide. I'm not just talking about you reading novels. I'm not talking about you watching films and listening to the words that are used. I'm talking about you reading wide and reading from other fields too. When you read from other fields, like if you we talked about objective description. Though there are other means of reporting scientific experiments. But what if you're asked to describe something that has to do with science? If you've read well, you know a lot about science, and that is where your language students. In language, you read wide, because you'll be asked a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of this, a bit of that. You must be able to, at least, you don't become a total novice to what is happening around you. So when you read, if it is the field of agriculture you want to write about, you read, you'll be able to write. I am sure of that if you do. So it would inform your choice of words. When you have it, when you know what to write, you will not be limited. When you're asked questions, you will not be limited. Sometimes you're asked questions, you're like, oh, which one do I pick? Because you're thinking, so what do I write? How do I present this? If I choose this, how do I present it? But if you've read wide, you know so much about at least a little of this that can help you, that can allow you answer questions on that. A little of that can help you answer questions on that. You won't be limited. In fact, you would have so much to choose from. You would choose, if I write this, I will do well. If I write this, I will do. So you sit and you just pick one and you would write. And when you're writing, you're not like, I don't know, that one I chose, No, you won't be doing that. You would know that whatever you have written, yes, you become an authority in whatever you're doing. So that would be good. Another thing you would need to know is the use of comparisons and contrasts. You're describing. Imagine you're describing something somebody doesn't know. The person, of course, when you're describing, whoever you're describing to or for, might not know anything about that. Now, when you describe, you're like, oh, if you want to know this particular place, okay, you know this place is known to you, this place is known to you. So you just look at how the new place you want to describe is related in comparison to the place they already know, or in ways they are different. You know, you say, oh, like unlike this place I'm describing is this and is this, or like this place I'm describing has this as that. You know what? It helps people to really visualize. Oh, okay, if it is like that, then I think I have a clue. I think I know a bit of what you're talking about. So that makes it really good, very useful for the person. Or imagine you're describing somebody really, really needs to know. So you're saying, I'm describing this person. Oh, yeah, this so person is known to us. We all know that. Okay, now, this person I'm describing looks much like this person, apart from just this and this and this. And you know, the people who get that person, they're like, oh, okay, if it's like this, then it must be this. Or if it's like this, it must be this. Simple, you have made your point clear, and you're good with it. Whoever you're describing, you will not say, I didn't get that. They really will get it. Through comparison and contrast. That's very useful too. Then your tenses. Now let me do comparison. Let me do contrast too now. Unlike narrative essays, you know, in narration, you're telling something that has already happened. And so you're using past tense all together. Apart from those areas that we've already mentioned that you could use present tense, especially if you're quoting somebody, or you're saying something, you're quoting something that is generally acceptable within your essay, okay, or you're given a dialogue. Okay, of course, in dialogue too, it's like what the person said, so that you put it in quotes. Now, unlike narrative essay, in descriptive essay, you use your tenses as they come, as they are suitable for the description. Take, for instance, you're describing what happened in a particular day. Let's say an event that runs from the morning till the evening. Okay? So you're going to be, and it is something that happens every day like that. You're going to be using present tense most of the time. Except you're chipping in something that had happened before within the same context. If not, you're going to be using present tense. It's an everyday thing, something that happens every day. So you use present tense. But if you're referring to past happenings, things that have happened in the past, then you will use past tense. But even if you're describing something, because sometimes you might be describing something that hasn't happened, but you're hoping to happen in the future, and you're thinking this is, you know, because you have a like of it, so you're thinking if that is where comparison or contrast would work again. Like if we can go by what we have now, in the future we may be having something like this, something like this, something like that. You're describing, so that way you'll be using future tenses. So you use your tenses as they come, as applicable as they can be to your discourse, okay, to your description at that moment. All right, we're talking about that you need tenses, present tense, past tense. So I decided to just like, let's say somebody asked if we could have examples. So like, you could have this, maybe you're writing on just, it always goes to work in the morning at 7:30. Somebody will wonder why I have to write this 7:30 in Word first. In English, majorly, you write in words. Most of the times when you write numbers, you're penalized. Yeah, this level, you're penalized. So please form the habit of writing in words. For some of us that dodged it in primary school, go and pick it up now. It's useful. So that is that. She does her homework meticulously in the morning. Look at that. I decided to describe that to let you know how she does the homework. That's something that happens every day. She does it every day. They do the assigned task always. That's what the task assigned them, they do it always. That is, those are some of the expressions you could have when you're working with description in the present form. Now, if you have the past form, that's most of the times it's very good and you're fast at using that. So it happened on the 20th of November 2016. The man missed a swift step. Now, because you'll be wondering, how could he miss it? He's a man, he's a grown-up. But because the step was swift, so he missed it and fell. He was picked up by a car driver, but it was already too late as he had given up the ghost. Look, it looks like I was trying to make a whole, like I was trying to tell a story, isn't it? Like I was trying to describe something. So it's actually better when you're saying something, you're describing something that had happened. You flow freely. All right, now let's go to how exactly you write now. Remember, I said it. I said when you want to start any essay, any writing at all, when we started with the narrative, we said that you should brainstorm. That's why I put that in quotes. You brainstorm. It is better for you to spend like 10 minutes. If you have 50 minutes to answer a question, if you spend the first 10 minutes thinking about, okay, what do I have to write? Do I actually understand this question? And how do you get if you understand the question, if you can really answer the question? The first thing is you must be able to reframe the question in your own way. If you can't do that, you may not have understood that question well. You must be able to reframe it. Take, for instance, if the question says, describe an event that happened in a particular place to a friend who wasn't an eyewitness while you were an eyewitness. Good. That event happened where you were. You knew it. You saw it live and direct. So what would you do? Now that is the question. Now you should be able to give it, a heading, and you're like, okay, what do I write? How do I frame this, the event? The first thing is you're thinking of, okay, I understand this. This is I should describe an event. So you're thinking, which of the events, which exact one do I describe now? Which one can I describe well? Now you just, as you're thinking, you're trying to brainstorm, you just got one. You got at one and you're like, okay, the event was maybe an accident that you were an eyewitness of. That's very good. This time you are not just narrating, you're describing how exactly what happened. Remember, because here you're going to be using some words that would appeal to the senses. That is the way to capture description. Now, most of the times it will appeal to the sense of sight, the things you can see. Then you'll be using sounds here. Okay, here you'll be singing, some people will whispering, you'll be talking about whispering, you'll be talking about bellowing, you'll be talking about screaming, you'll be talking about shouting, yelling, you'll be talking about other words. Sounds like those mowing, something like it was written in paint, sometimes like, words like that. And these words are gotten from your wide range of reading. If you don't read well and you're not a friend of your dictionary, it becomes a problem. You won't be able, maybe the only one you know for crying is just crying. You don't know when somebody is mourning, you don't know when somebody is written in pain, you don't know all of that. Then it will be monotonous because that is the only word you'll be using each time you need to use that. You don't know when you could say somebody was shouting or somebody was yelling, or maybe all you know is shouting. You can't say that somebody is yelling. You can't say the person yelled. You can't say the person bellowed. You can't, you are so limited, so that you will not get stuck, so that you will not be limited. Because when we are marking, sometimes there is a way I mark. When I mark and I see that you've used this word once, the second time you use it, the third time, I will go back to that first time you used it, I will underline. Like, okay, this person is, and remember, that would keep reducing your mark under expression, remember. So it shows that you don't have a good grasp on what you're writing. So that is that. So it's better you take like 10 minutes, brainstorm. What do I want to write? Now I can reframe the question. Okay, so how do you want to title it? From how you reframe the question, then you'll be able to pick a title. Your title could be An Unforgettable Day, or What a Gory Sight. Those could be your title, and maybe any other one you may choose to. Now, if you say What a Gory Sight, then you will be describing, those eye-blinding events that when you see, you're like, sometimes when some people see some gory sight, some very bad sight, sometimes that it could make somebody lose their sense of singing. You're just like, what am I looking at? What am I looking at? You close, you open, you close, you open. Before you know it, something sends some signals to your retina, and they are like blurring. You're like, I can't see it well. I can't see well. And it becomes, so those are the kind of things you will be describing when it is so bad. You're like, I can't bear this. I cannot bear this. So you will need words to describe those. You will need words. You need expressions. Okay? And when you're saying, when you talk about a noun, remember, you will use adjective and adjectival phrases or clauses to qualify it. If it is a verb, you will use adverbial clauses or phrases to describe them, to make us know how. Good. So you should have a good heading. After brainstorming, you've thought about the heading, then while you're sitting down for those 10 minutes, you're thinking of, okay, so what do I write in the introduction? How do I put my introduction? Because remember, it must have an introduction, a very interesting one, a well-paragraphed body, which could be in like 2, 3, or 4 paragraphs. Okay? And you must have a very good ending. Very good, very interesting ending. And all along, you must be able to suspend the interest of your reader. Because if you can't suspend, if they lose track of it, if they are like, it's not interesting, I can't read. What you're saying is, your readers are not just the people that are reading for pleasure. You're writing for an examiner who is going to mark. So if you write and it's not interesting, you get them bored. Or you get them bored with monotony, like just single word for different expressions. You're just using one word. They get like, doesn't really have what to write. It's only when they open the messy corridor that you get good marks. When they don't open the messy corridor, when they want to be very, very strict, like if you have some critical examiners, or you won't like that. But if you have done it so well that when they pick it, no matter how long it is, they will want to finish reading before they drop it. You would like that if you have written well. Yeah, what was I said that it should appeal to senses, because you are describing. Yes. For instance, if you're describing a food, for instance, a particular food, a particular dish, you want to tell us how it tastes, and you want to be using different words for the taste. Says taste sour, taste good, taste pleasant, taste nice, delicious, very tasty. All those words, you'll be using it. Now, if it is sight, like I said, you'll be using such words that appeal to the sight. Let's say it is sound, you'll be using words that appeal to sound. Good. And that is that about it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is adverbial linkers, the use of our adverbial linkers. Remember, when we treated narrative essay, we said that you use adverbial linkers in narrative sparingly. That is one other way descriptive essay is different, quite different from narrative essay. In descriptive essay, you use your adverbial linkers very, very well. You use them very well. Not like in narrative essay. Adverbial linkers are used here, like you're describing. If you're describing a place, how to get to a location, you will tell the person, board the vehicle from so place. When you get to a certain place, you come down. Next, you turn this. Next, you go that way. Further, you go further a bit and turn right. You go further a bit and turn left, like that. You'll be using a lot of linkers. And you'll be using linkers not just to link your sentences, but to equally link your paragraphs. Okay, when you have discussed, remember, in a paragraph, you have an idea. That is, you have the idea, you have the topic sentence, which is most of the time the first sentence in that paragraph. Then you explain it in maybe 5, 6, 7, or 10 sentences, 10 different sentences with different sentence types, remember? And so you go on. When you want to go to the next paragraph, you want to discuss the next idea. It is like you're discussing from the foregoing. So you want to say moreover or furthermore. So you'll be using words like that to link the paragraphs to one another. Okay? And the way to know a good description is in their coherence. When the paragraphs are neatly packed together in coherence. It's not like it's distorted. It's not like when you read the first paragraph. When you try to read the second paragraph, you don't have, it's like it doesn't really have a bearing with what you wrote before. Then it becomes a problem. It becomes distorted. And what you have is, in expression, you don't have, you're losing marks. In fact, in content it becomes like, so now that it is distorted, you'll be marked down. Within you, you know what you want to do. But what you have written down does not portray that. So it becomes a problem. That is where brainstorming comes in. So that you would have put down all of your ideas. All of your ideas. So you could have so much as maybe as 10. And you don't need more than 5 paragraphs or 6 paragraphs. Now what you do is, if you have 10 for instance, and they're all very important, you look for maybe 2 that are little ideas that you can put in one and they are related, that you can put in one paragraph. So that eventually you would have all of your ideas and you're not leaving any stone unturned. Because you're working on description and you want to describe and let your reader or listener get exactly what they want without asking any further question. So we've made it clear that narrative essay and descriptive essay, though they are essays we are writing, but we have some differences. Remember, since the beginning of the class today, we have established that. Now, we want to see the differences between the narrative and descriptive essay. Let's see number 1. We said this can be a fiction or non-fiction. We've already said it that narrative essay could be fictional, it could be non-fictional, it could be real, it could be your imagination, it could be something you have watched or something you have seen, and it could be just from your imagination. This cannot be applicable to descriptive essay. Get me right. I'm not saying that you cannot use your imagination to get description out. But if you're using your imagination, unlike what you'll be writing in narrative essay, you're going to be very, very vivid here. Because you're describing so that that person wouldn't ask further question. So that is why we just settle it at something you are an eyewitness of, or somewhere you know very well, or somebody you know like the back of your hand. So those are the kind of people, places, or events you describe. Another difference is that narrative essay does not have to happen in your presence. We said you must be an eyewitness. That's like, what I said earlier. You must be an eyewitness to be able to describe well. You must be an eyewitness. It must be like, okay, it happened. Because you'll be saying it like you were there. That's the way you'll be saying it. So get that straight. You will say it like you were there. So when the driver moved that way, the truck driver swerved to the right, and then before you know it, you have to say it that way to show you really were there. And remember, sometimes the event you're describing might be something your reader or somebody is making it. If it's just your reader, that no mark attached, no string attached, and they're just like, we know this better. But if it is somebody who is marking it, you remember what that can cause. So now another one is that you don't need details in narrative essay. You're narrating sometimes to entertain, so you don't really need details. I'm not saying you will not use good vocabulary, but you don't need the details. It doesn't have to happen in your presence, so you may not know how the car swerved. Maybe all you know was that there was an accident, and this person died, and so the effect of it was this and that. But for description, attention is paid to details, all the details, especially when it is an event. In fact, even if it's a location, if you don't say the details, the person you're describing to will not know. The person you're saying, oh, okay, when you get here, if you don't say the details, all those areas, places along the way, if you don't describe it, the person might not get it. You're describing that somebody should go to the 5th floor. And you didn't tell the person that the building has a basement. The person will go to maybe let's say the building has 7 floors. And you just say, go to 6 floor. The person counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the person gets to the floor. This is the final floor. So where is the 6th floor? And I counted. It could take a while before the person will get there. So that is one. And if it's an event, you need to make the person know. So the person will like, so they don't need to ask further questions. They don't need to even, they don't need any other trouble. They will just get it as you have described. So that is, then this one said, your narration might not appeal to your senses. You might just say, oh, okay. Just like you're watching films. Oh, okay, that one did, that one did that, that one. Or a film is being narrated to you. But with description, you would not want to do that. It will appeal to your senses. If you're talking about something, if you're talking about accident, because that's the commonest one, I keep mentioning accident. That's the commonest one. Now, in an accident, when it's really bad, people will make sounds. So you want to describe the sounds. If that one is appealing to the sense of both the writer and the reader. Remember, if we're saying that this must appeal to your senses, and such words that would appeal to your senses and show expressions should be used, then we're not just talking about you that is writing, we're talking about the readers as well. This is like communication, passing on information. So if it doesn't appeal to the reader, then you have not communicated. You haven't passed on any information. So it has to. You must use words that, oh, okay. Instead of you saying, hey, the man put the mouth in the ear of the another person and was talking like, no. You could just say it whispered. Simple. You have used that word. Instead of repeating it, oh, he shouted like 20 times. No. You just say, oh, he yelled. And at another time, because the man screamed. So you could use words like that. Then adverbial linkers, we established that we don't use adverbial linkers in narrative as such. You use other words to link, okay? You use other words to link your paragraphs together. But in descriptive, you use them very well, liberally. You don't have to, you don't borrow them. They are words that you're familiar with, you have learned. So just use them as they come. Just continue to use them. Those ones we have mentioned and those ones we have not mentioned, as much as you can remember. Just use them. Okay, so that is that about the differences. Now let's see the practical application of descriptive essay. Whatever you're learning, they are for your consumption and they are for your they are to help you. Not now, but even later in the future. Now, when you're writing descriptive essay or you're learning it, you're not learning it just to write exams. Oh, in this class, hey, my teacher said we should. No, not just for that. Not just for you to pass exams. You must be able to. You must possess exactly what it takes to describe to people. I'm telling you, because you don't know. Some people are narrators. They narrate. They narrate to people. They narrate things to people. And some people they are tour guides. Now, if you're a tour guide and they earn money, I am telling you, if you go to a different country and if somebody goes to a country where you are, Fine, you might not be from that country, but you understand the language very well. Now, you'll be the tour guide, you'll be describing so much to the people you're leading, and they pay you good money. So it's maybe of a great help to you in the future if you learn to describe very well. You're using, okay, so when you get there, like somebody was describing the Sistine Chapel in Rome, was like, if you get there, if you went down, in fact, you would sit and you would look and look and look for hours. You might be looking at that picture, you will not be able to comprehend it. So that's something. That's something you might be asked to describe that. So your personal information, you might be asked to describe some thing to somebody, and you might be at the receiving end at some time too. Like somebody is describing. When the person is describing well, you would know. When the person is not describing well, you can even help the person out if you have learned the act of description very well. So what you're learning now is not just for now, even in the future, even in your everyday life, you use it. So now that you have learned this, I know that when you answer questions and you use it in everyday life.